And we are live here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. What's up, guys? Nick Scripp here on the P2W Fantasy Podcast, trucking away in the off season here. Excited for the show today. Have a very familiar face and have a new face in terms of collaborating on a podcast. Very excited. I want to make sure I get a chance to introduce both of these guys and let them know where you can find them and what they got going on. Starting with on the bottom here, Thomas. So Thomas, Dynasty Tilt Podcast. You guys are partnered up with Underdog, which I think is awesome because I myself just had a partnership opportunity with them. And I've seen your guys' live streams a handful of times, and they're involved with content for Trophy Smack, going for 2 Fantasy Intervention, Dynasty Vipers, Dynasty Happy Hour. Both the Vipers and Dynasty Happy Hour are part of the Fantasy Points Media Group as well, just like this podcast. So shout out to them. You and I have had some recent conversations about getting fucking jacked. So I'm glad to have you on the show here talking some football, man. So where can we find you for one and talk about what you got going on?
Yo, man, that is true. We have been talking about that. I've been hitting that hard. I'm down 14 pounds since I started this again.
Let's go.
I'm ready to keep going. I got another 20-something to go. I'm ready for Canton. I'm coming in good shape. I can't have it any other way. Look, I'm happy and honored to be here. Nick, we've been talking for just over a year, and this is the first pod we've managed to combine on here. Looking forward to that. And look, you can find me at Thomas Tipple FF. As you look at the bottom here, that's at Dynasty Tilt. That is the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast Twitter account run by FT_Maddie. He's our guy for all of that. And hey, you catch me Tuesday live stream with Jacob and Billy. You can catch me Saturday podcasting with Tom Lee while he's across the globe over there in Aussie land doing his things. What we got going on, we just finished one heck of a run with Austin Gale, Pat Dougherty, Alfred Fernandez, Ben Gretsch, just a killer's row of guests. And tomorrow we have Josh Larkey, and after that it's the rookie countdown. I actually just submitted my Full Tilt top 25 fantasy rookie rankings. Finally, God, my own show, and I just submitted it. I'm late for my own stuff, so that's how it works here.
Hey, better late than never when it comes to anything. But I mean, it sounds like you're very busy as well. I was saying to Thomas earlier, I was creeping on one of his shows and got a screenshot of his face to put on the promo for this show. But you definitely seem very busy, just like this other guy in the room who, if anybody watches this show, should be familiar with Kevin. We did a show together all regular season in 2021. Kevin is one of the 3 leads for the Devi Royale. They have a podcast. They have a Patreon. Now an analyst for football, guys, has the hat on and everything. Good to go. Kevin, you were on the Super Bowl show, and we haven't spoke one time since then. So I'm just curious, again, where can we find you? How have you been? And what's going on?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. Good to be back. Everything's good. I just got a kind of, I guess, a promotion to Football Guys, so that's a lot of fun. I just put out a new article, Dynasty running back strategy article, in terms of how you should do a Dynasty startup. So I know all you degenerates out there that are doing Dynasty startups, I take a look at that. I looked at anchor running back. And then just, Debbie Royale, as always, we're pushing. We're trying to get to 100 patrons by April. We're at 61 right now. So then we just released that like about a month and a half ago. So we really appreciate that. Bunch of different content. You like rookie content, college football content. We got it coming out. We have a big release coming on Sunday, a bunch of new content that we put together. I personally have done about 50 pages in the last 2 weeks on that. So a lot of different stuff on the manifesto for that. So if you guys could check that out, that'd be appreciated.
Awesome stuff, as always. So before we get going, as always, this podcast is partnered up with the Fantasy Points Media Group. It's my one-stop shop for everything fantasy related as both a fantasy manager and a content creator. So go check out fantasypoints.com/subscribe. Use the promo code P2W22 for a discount. What we got going on today, I had a full show sheet ready, but then like a shit ton of stuff happened today. So we'll talk about what happened today before getting into our segment of Fact or Cap. If you're watching this now, stick with us.
Play to win, no fear to give. I feel but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, yeah, I won't regret. I'll pick the best on trip, they don't understand. I play to win, yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Oh, play to win, I play to win. Yeah, I play to win, I play to win.
All right. See if I can get my sharing of the screen here figured out. And what we got going on, if you are just tuning in, talking about the news that happened today, and then along with some fact or cap statements here. And yeah, we got, even in the private chat, we got news dropping. I saw that that earlier, but no, I just saw it like 2 minutes before the show here. First guy I want to talk about, and we're super advanced on the show, so we'll just pull up these graphics from the ESPN Fantasy app, which shows Matt Ryan and the Colts logo behind him because he is a Colt now. In exchange for a third, the Falcons are taking on $40.5 million in a cap hit, which is the largest in NFL history. So interesting day for Colts fans and Falcons fans seeing this news. Just briefly, what's your thoughts here? It could be about Matt Ryan. It could be about anybody in the system. I know I do want to bring up somebody specific, but we'll start with Kevin. What's your thoughts here on Matt Ryan being a Colt?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it in terms of just Matt Ryan. I think he's fine. I think that, when you're looking at what the Colts needed to do something, I think this is kind of what they fell to. And I think he'll be okay there. I obviously, from a fantasy aspect, I think Ryan still has something left. I mean, that offensive line was bad, especially with what he was dealing with in Atlanta. He's a low-end running, probably quarterback too. I mean, maybe he'll have some weeks where maybe he'll be a low-end QB1, but I like that move for the Colts. They had to get something. It's better than Baker. Anything's better than Baker. But I do also, from a dynasty perspective, though, I'm selling the shit out of Michael Pittman Jr. I've never really been a Michael Pittman guy, and I've always said to sell him. And I'm not on there. So I know.
You get me unprepared, Kevin. I just knew this guy was going to come up, so I got my graphic I made like 7 weeks ago, and here it is. But yeah.
Well, I know you like Michael Pittman. I knew they were going to fight on it. I just think it's time. I don't see him being like I've always felt like his value overseeded his actual talent. And so I think with this news, people are going to be high on Pittman because they're already high on Pittman. And I think that if you have the ability to kind of sell up for somebody, add a second to that and go get an elite wide receiver one, that's what I would do.
All right. I'm curious to hear if Thomas is in agreement about Michael Pittman. I again have the graphic I made, kind of made on the screen here. So if you're listening in your car, you can check it on YouTube. But what I have is Michael Pittman's season and some of the weekly finishes for him for the wide receiver position, along with some of his stats. And he had a lot of really nice games, and it looks like it's a QB upgrade. But Thomas, what's your thoughts here on Matt Ryan, Michael Pittman, whatever you want to go?
See, I'm trading for Michael Pittman because he fits what Matt Ryan can do now. Like, what are the Colts going to do? The Colts are going to go and they're going to draft who? Justin Ross, maybe later, or they're going to draft a burner. He can't throw to a burner. I'm not trusting Matt Ryan to chuck the ball down the field, and the way their roster has holes to fill, if anything, maybe they've replaced like a T.Y. Hilton, right, with one of those guys, but big body. And I'm sorry, and people get mad at me a lot, but Michael Pittman is as close to Calvin Ridley as Matt Ryan was going to see again, right? Works the middle of the field. He doesn't do much after the catch. He's not going to do a lot extra to help Matt Ryan. Michael Pittman Jr. fits the mold for Ryan better than Pittman fit the mold for Carson Wentz, who can't hit a drag route to save his bloody life, where Matt Ryan can. Russell Gage was a viable option last year, and if you're telling me that Michael Pittman can't be better than Russell Gage, I think there's some haterade that you're drinking on a personal level. So I like Pittman. I would pay for him. Most people that don't like Pittman, they're just never going to be willing to trade one of their stud guys, in my opinion, unless you add something significant. If anything, you're kind of looking for the person that has that mentality to make a move for him. Because the second round pick in this draft, you need Hassan, maybe? No thanks. I'll take that, take a receiver, and I'll take that pick and Pittman, and you can have one of my receivers. I'll double up my value. I like Pittman. I think he's going to be great. Wide receiver 2 all day.
With Pittman this past season, obviously some solid weeks again on the screen here. I like the point about Russell Gage, because Russell Gage is very relevant. This past season, he was relevant for actually 2 seasons for many weeks when he had the opportunity. I like the point Kevin made as well, that Matt Ryan going to the Colts, it could have been several other guys. And I think from a fantasy perspective for Michael Pittman, who would you have rather had thrown him the ball, let's just say in 2022? Would it, you rather have Matt Ryan or Baker Mayfield, or Matt Ryan or Jimmy Garoppolo? I think I'd take Matt Ryan from a fantasy perspective, because I feel like that kind of elevates Pittman's ceiling, I guess, just to a degree, because we've seen Matt Ryan make, maybe he doesn't make those people relevant in fantasy from Atlanta in the past, but he definitely is a piece of that. And the Colts went across the last several years from Luck to Brissett to Rivers to Wentz to Ryan, who is 36 years old. So it's not like we're going to see, 15 years of Matt Ryan, and they'll probably have another guy on this list at some point. But Colts have definitely been interesting. I want to pivot to the next piece of this, because we have a lot to go over. But another quarterback today, Jameis Winston, back with the Saints. So I feel like a lot of people saw this on the wall. The writing on the wall for him to come back. I think when we look at this past season, 2 of his 7 games played, he had 3+ touchdowns, which was one of the categories I looked at for quarterback upside. How many games in a season, what percentage of a game games played did a quarterback have 3+ passing touchdowns or 300 passing yards? So he looked, in a small sample size, like he was hitting one of those upside categories, which was, again, 3+ passing touchdowns, 14 and 7 games. Historically for fantasy, we saw the season where he had the 33 touchdowns, the 30 interceptions. He was a QB4. He averaged 21.25. He's a bit more reserved with the Saints, obviously under a different coach, different expectations. But I see the path for him to have some upside. But I'm curious to hear about any thoughts about Jameis Winston or anybody in that system. And Thomas, I'll go to you first on this one.
So I'm actually currently writing an article for goingfor2.com about why Winston's a fantasy trap. Like, he's always a fantasy trap outside of pretty much 1 year where it took him throwing 30 interceptions and Arians going, well, we ain't got anything else for him to be the elite guy. And I don't think Michael Thomas is going to do enough to make me vault him up. I think he is a trap. I think this is the type of time and move where you can trade Winston for Matt Ryan and get a little something on top, and you're probably getting replaceable quarterback production, right? Like, the Saints defense is probably just as good as the Colts defense, you'd say. They both run the ball a ton, right? They both have a big-bodied receiver that plays over the middle. Winston just likes to chuck the ball to the other team usually. And even with his big games like you were talking about, right? Like, he was the QB, 5? He was the QB 4. And other than that, 28, 16, 26, 25, 26 with the Saints. Like, his efficiency was up, but everything else way down. He's a statue. I would be trading Winston for someone like Ryan and getting something on top. Replaceable quarterback production. Yeah, that's what I live for. So it's fine. It's what we expected. But if you're moving him up or down because of it, I wouldn't do that.
Kevin, are you in the same on the same wave as that with Thomas for Jameis Winston, or do you feel differently?
Absolutely not. Me and Thomas are not going to get along this whole show because I'm all.
I like that sometimes, though.
I'm all for the Jameis love, baby. Like, I think Jameis can do very well. He's a solid QB2 in Superflex. He's been the cheapest, in Superflex wise. I've been getting him a lot of rounds, like late rounds, and I like his value there. I think Michael Thomas coming back is a real thing, and I know that he's burned a lot of people, and, Slant Boy has not been able to stay healthy and all the things that we've said about him, but he elevates that offense. I like Callaway as well, and I thought they had something there towards the middle of the year before Winston got injured. I do think that offense will be a little bit better this year. I don't know what's going on with Kamara. Again, after the whole assault thing that's going on in Vegas, there's some things going on in that area, but I think they can improve, and I think that he could be okay. Like, I understand what Thomas is saying in terms of, like, I wouldn't look at him as being a QB1 option all the time. But I do think he has some upside as that QB2, like that 25 points against Washington. Like, there are games where he can do that. I would expect 16 to 20 points is a good baseline for me in terms of, like, his fantasy production. If you can get that 6-point passing touchdowns, like, he elevates him a little bit, because do think they're going to throw a little bit more. If Thomas is there, I don't think we've seen his upside yet as a quarterback. And I think I'm okay with that. I don't think I would trade him for Ryan. I understand what he's saying, but for me personally, I've always been more of a Jameis guy. I think that his ceiling is a little higher there.
It's not necessarily trading Winston for Ryan, because they should be your third quarterback already, if not your fourth on your Superflex roster. But
listen here. He's not. He's my 2. Okay.
Oh
so
gosh.
Hey,
so I'm
listen
sorry.
here. Okay, it can be done. I promise.
I'm sorry. But I like, for me, if I have a Winston who his DLF ADP right now is like the 27th or 28th quarterback off the board, he should be your third at that point. Unless you're Kevin, who waits till the 28th quarterback off the board to grab a second one. But you can take his current value for what we've seen in his career, which is fine with pop games, and you can get that replaceable production and extend your draft capital, which obviously increases over time a little more. I'd be willing to do that.
I almost wonder, trade-wise, though, if he's going as a 27th, 28th, what you're actually going to get, out of him, if he's just a hold at that point. Because if I had to do 2022 rankings and he's the 28th off the board and he finishes as the 24th, then I probably might have been just like better off hanging on to him. But I can see both sides of things. Maybe we got people in the chat saying Jameis QB1 with the fire emoji. So I could see the polarizing portion of him. But let's go to our last guy just so we can get into the rest of the show here. I know you guys probably want to talk about this guy more than anybody. Marcus Mariota is back, and he is in Atlanta.
Can I talk about him the least?
Yeah, that's my sarcasm. I have this like fake ass Chicago accent that comes out, and sometimes the sarcasm just doesn't really roll in there that much. We actually were in a group chat today, the three of us, and not to say I called something, because I feel like it was kind of obvious at some point that he had a chance to go to Atlanta, but I put the gif of Mariota, and I don't think Thomas was too much of a fan, which I
was trying to eat at the time.
Yeah,
I was trying to eat at the time. It was ruined.
It was. So a couple of random guest appearances on the Raiders and Titans across the last few seasons. His last actual season where he got a lot of work was 2018, 2019. He's in Atlanta. Atlanta has just been exploding this offseason. Kyle Pitts is over there. And then Patterson is back. Outside of that, I don't know if I can even mention other guys. I know like there's going to be people that say certain guys like Frank Darby and Zacchaeus are going to be these major sleepers, but I'm just not super interested. But Marcus Mariota, we can make it a long conversation, a short one. Kevin, we'll start with you.
Yeah, he's all right. Like I think if he starts, you have some upside from his rushing perspective, right? Like we talk about. I do think the Falcons are going to draft somebody, unless they just punt it and go to next year. So I do think there's some concerns there. If they draft Kenny Pickett, though, I'm going to throw up in my mouth, because Kenny Pickett is the biggest fool's trap in the world, and I'm going to keep saying that. The dude has barely bigger hands than my daughter, and she's 4. But there's a problem with Kenny Pickett there. So if he goes that route, yeah, Marcus is going to play a big role. I think he's okay. Like I think in redraft, he's worth like, a streaming option, later pick. As far as Dynasty goes, you might as well just get rid of him now, because this is the last time Mariota is going to have that kind of that value that you like to see there. So to me personally, I don't see much about it. I've never been a Mariota stan. And I think if you can get out now, you get out now.
Thomas, same page, or do you have a little bit more optimism for Marcus Mariota here?
Mariota is one of my favorite types of players because he's dirt cheap, right? And he should run. Part of the problem when he was in Tennessee was that people were wondering why he wasn't running enough, right? That's part of the reason that made him such a tantalizing prospect, was that he was so athletic and he can take off, but he just refused. And I think that he kind of knows that's his ticket right now, is to use that athletic profile now, and he's gonna need to with Atlanta. And Atlanta needs so many things that drafting a quarterback should be low on their list. So I think you're safe with him to play, because they're not going to play Franks, right? And Rosen did Rosen things in the 2 passes I think he got last year. He's going to play. And if he plays, he's going to run. And that's my favorite kind of target. He's probably sitting on your waivers unless whoever had him has had him since 2016. He's just been praying. But he's one of my favorite types. Is he going to be a good quarterback? No. Is he going to be a great fantasy quarterback? A couple weeks of the year? Absolutely.
Yeah. The thing is with Mariota that I think you can respect for the guys that hung on to him is that in Superflex league. So again, if you are not familiar, it's a league where you can play 2 quarterbacks. It's hard. It's hard to have QB depth, and the price of the quarterback is so high. So I think that again, if this is a guy you hung on to, now you have a little bit more of depth. And will you play him on a weekly basis? Probably not. Thomas, you think it's easier to trade quarterbacks and super flexes, or?
So I'm just a person I've never believed in the super flex quarterback value chart. Like I've never just believed I need to pay for someone because they're a quarterback. I'll play a receiver. Like if I ever get into that kind of a pinch where somebody wants to charge me,
do you think it's that way?
I think it's perceived to be harder than it is. I think it's a lot easier than people are. People might think to trade for a quarterback, but it also depends on the league that you're in. If you're in a league with somebody that goes into a startup and they take 5 quarterbacks, their obvious play is that they're going to take their 4th or 5th quarterback and want your 23-1 and, a high-end wide receiver too to stick it to you. And at that point, just play a receiver. I don't think it's as hard as maybe people perceive it as.
Yeah,
it is.
I don't think I've ever played in a super flex where it was easy to trade them personally. I don't know about you, Kevin, if
So I'm kind of in the middle. I agree with Thomas too. I think quarterbacks are the most overvalued asset.
I agree with that for sure. I do agree with that.
This shit drives me crazy in drafts and stuff like that. Like with the league we're in, I won a championship last year with Mac Jones and Zach Wilson as my 2 starting quarterbacks.
Easy money.
You can do other stuff. Like you can do stuff like that. Yeah. I will say though, trade value wise, I think especially if you're in a league with sharps or if you're in a league with kind of newbies too, I think they do overvalue the quarterback position, but they'll try to reach on these guys. But there are true values where you could get Derek Carr before the news with Devontae Adams. Like there are ways you can kind of extract value out of guys, especially if you hit right. But if you miss hard. Like some poor soul's got Wentz, Tannehill, someone else on their roster right now, and now they're kind of struggling because it's going to be hard to kind of get other guys. But I do think too, there's a way to manipulate the waiver wire. These quarterbacks get hurt. You can find 20 points from Mike White every once in a while. Like there are ways you can kind of manage it. You just have to be active. I think that's being active. You know that. I mean, play to win, baby, right?
Play to win. Play to win.
One of the things that Tom Lee and I talk about on the walkabout constantly, that whole show is dedicated to current league, not startup value, but current league value at positions, because it's super important. And the number one thing we reference is knowing your league. If out of the gate, you notice that your league is just driving hard to quarterbacks, I'm the type of person that will run the other way. Like I'll take my first quarterback in the first 2 rounds and I will not touch one until the 10th. Because I refuse to take Kirk Cousins in the 5th round of a dynasty startup. You can't pay me to do that. So
did you just give me shit for having Jameis Winston as my QB too? That's exactly what I do here, Thomas.
I'm saying he should I'm trying to speak to the most people here. Okay. He should be your 3rd. He should be your 3rd. Wow. But I mean, it's just how I play. It's not how the masses play.
Yeah.
Which is Kirk Cousins in the 4th.
Which is what makes Dynasty fun, is because everybody values things at a different rate and everybody plays at a different rate too. Redraft's a different picture, right? Let's go into our main segment of this show. It's called Factor Cap. I did this sort of show with Kyle Soppe from ESPN. We did this, and I told him before I hit 30 in October, so I'm trying to stay hip and cool. So
you don't look a day over 25.
Hey, I appreciate that. That's what I'm trying to look like Kevin with this beard, but it's coming in kind of weird. But Factor Cap. So I'm basically just going to read a series of little notes and ask you guys if a statement is fact, which is AKA true, or cap, AKA false. So it's going to be one or the other. It's more one or the other. I'm sure a lot of these can be somewhere in the middle, but you kind of have to lean Factor Cap on this. Starting off with Desean, Watson. So Houston sent Watson and a 2024 fifth. The Browns sent a first-round picks in 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2023 third and fourth-round picks. So they sent a bunch of picks in order to get Deshaun Watson. So Watson has been the QB6, the QB2, and QB5 overall in his last couple seasons played. In 2020, he threw for almost 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns. Factor cap here. Deshaun Watson is a top 5 dynasty QB. And we'll start with Thomas on the bottom. Is that more fact or more cap?
That's easy fact. That's easy fact. The guy's just good. Good. Will he be rusty? He'll be rusty. But overall, yeah.
All right.
Easy.
Easy. So he says easy. Kevin, shifting to you. Is Deshaun Watson being a top 5 dynasty quarterback? That statement more fact or cap?
Yeah, that's a fact. He's QB4 right now, to me personally. I mean, with where he was at before he came out, I'd easily put him at 4. And you can maybe even talk about him being over Herbert, maybe, depending on kind of how you like him. I know everybody loves Herbert, but I mean, with what he can do with the weapons around him, the kind of player he is, and he's still young. He's only 26, so he's top 5 for me.
So I'm gonna list a couple guys. Let me know if you'd rather have one of these guys. You guys can jump in at any rate over Deshaun Watson in Dynasty. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. So here's my 5. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott,
I'd have Watson.
Trey Lance. Watson overall?
Well, I'm all about rushing quarterbacks. So give me Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Give me Murray, right? Give me Herbert, and then I'll take Watson.
All right, so that fits in your 5. Kevin, any of those guys listed? Jackson, Murray, Burrow, Prescott, Lance. You'd prefer them over Deshaun Watson?
Jackson would be the only one that I would lean towards, and that's just because he's a Chico when he's healthy, and people forget what he was doing last year before he got hurt. So I think Jackson over there. I would take Deshaun over Burrow all day. Like I don't even like Burrow is the most overvalued quarterback.
Gotta ask though.
Oh my God! Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
3 games.
You know what happens though when people play on TV longer than other people, that drives prices up.
But they should normally have to play well on TV for the price to go up.
I'm just saying. I agree.
Oh
I agree.
God.
We got to tie this next question in because I've seen a lot of takes on this, so I want to hear your guys' opinion. So Amari Cooper now is the wide receiver 1 in Cleveland for Deshaun Watson. Looking across the last couple of finishes here, without just listing everything off, the last couple of years, 2021 going back to 2018, for the most part, he's averaged around 15 fantasy points, give or take. This past season was actually the lowest across the last handful of years with 13.5. But I think you can count on him seeing a lot of targets, right, in this system. I think we know that Deshaun Watson in the past has had wide receivers that finished pretty well for fantasy. So fact or cap, we'll go to Kevin first. Amari Cooper should be a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy in 2022.
So I'm going to say going based on Watson will play the whole year. I'm just going to go into that assumption because I don't know what's going to happen with that.
That's a good point.
Under that assumption, I think Cooper could fit in at like 10. Like I think he has a chance to kind of be that low end wide receiver 1 area. If Watson plays the whole year, I do think they'll draft somebody. So I think they are going to bring some competition in there. Or maybe they'll get somebody else, but I think that he could finish at 10. Cooper is very talented. It's a consistency thing that's the issue, but I do think in that offense, it suits his game pretty well, especially play action and those type of things.
All right, Thomas, same question. Amari Cooper should be a top 10 wide receiver in 2022, fact or cap? Uh-oh. Oh, he's got it ready to go.
So no thanks. Hard no. That's 2 caps worth. Amari Cooper is a beta. He has been a beta almost his entire career, even when he's been the guy. So I'm ready for this one. Fantasy points per game last year, 27, 21, 14, 21, 31, 16, 27. He's been the guy before. He's been the guy on high volume passing offenses. No thanks. Now you're going to be the number 1, number 2 rushing offense in the league, and they're going to bring somebody else in. and they use tight ends like crazy. No thanks. He's a trap. He's a huge trap.
But this is the best quarterback he's ever played with. And that I'm saying as a Cowboys fan, I love Dak. But
I
Watson,
agree. But Dak's good enough that you shouldn't finish 27-21. 14 was pretty good. 8 touchdowns, career high, mind you. Right? You should be better than that if you're playing with Dak on a team that with a quarterback that good. Like the philosophies aren't going to be much different between Dallas and what Cleveland does. Run the ball constantly and then throw it off play action. He should be fine. You know he's going to miss games. Now he's playing in Cleveland where it's going to be miserable for half of the year, if not more. I just know I can't do it. I can't buy top 10. If he starts hitting top 10, I will yeet all of my shares into the sun. Oblivion. And get back that haul.
Yeah, Kevin mentioned earlier the suspension or lack of suspension, I think, is going to have a big impact on this. Otherwise, it's going to be Jacoby Brissett throwing the ball in Cleveland. I'm going to put you guys on the spot again because I just like to do that sort of thing. But I listed a couple guys: Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. I listed those guys as guys I feel pretty comfortable saying they're top 10. Right? I got a couple other guys. I'm going to give you a this or that. No explanation. You tell me next season as of today. What's today? March 21st, 2022. Who do you rather have in 2022? Amari Cooper or this guy?
Can I ask, is this for my dynasty rosters or is this just for this season?
Just for the season. Just for the season. Because a lot of people have said immediately Amari Cooper, 2022, top 10. So that's why I want to get a grasp for how we see this for next year. So we'll go Kevin Thomas in that order. You just give me your guy. So Amari Cooper or Stephon Diggs?
Diggs.
Okay. Amari Cooper or Deebo Samuel?
Deebo. Easy.
All right. Amari Cooper or DK Metcalf?
DK.
I'm going to go Cooper.
All right. So we're getting some discrepancy here. All right. Amari Cooper or Jalen Waddle?
Waddle. I'm going Waddle.
You guys can jump at any rate. It doesn't matter.
Easy Waddle. You said I'm letting Kevin do his thing. He's
that's true. That's true.
All right, last two. Respect to the vet here.
Hey, that's very noble of you. All right, last two. Amari Cooper or T. Higgins?
Oh,
I'm gonna go Cooper. I'm gonna piss Thomas off and say Cooper.
Well, T's an alpha, so I'm gonna take him. I don't want to.
I don't want to for next year, but
I know that's fine. I don't want to fake alpha. Mixon's gonna miss 7 games, and they're gonna throw the ball 400 times. So
yeah. Last one. Amari Cooper or Mitch Trubisky's Deontay Johnson?
I'm gonna go Deontay. I'm a big Deontay guy, so I'm doing Deontay on that one.
Deontay's a better Allen Robinson. Give me Deontay.
All right. That's interesting. So I listed off like 5 or 6 there, and then before a bunch. So based off of this, that was about 13 guys, I think. So interesting stuff. Last piece of this Cleveland puzzle, because again, that was the biggest news so far, in my opinion, this offseason. Nick Chubb. I want to bring up Nick Chubb. So we saw this past season. I was looking for better examples of like a massive leap because of a quarterback change. And some people were saying, like, some people threw out there like Leonard Fournette, but we saw, for fantasy purposes in the past, Leonard Fournette be a top 10 guy. So I didn't want to go with that route. But Joe Mixon had a career year with a full season of Joe Burrow. We can say it's a quarterback change, but in reality, it kind of was because he had a full season of his guy. I'm not saying that that's a direct correlation, but we've seen before with a quarterback change that it can actually improve the value of a running back, despite people thinking that an offense just changes to a passing offense and the guy loses value. But I'm curious, fact or cap? We'll go Thomas and Kevin. Nick Chubb's value increases with the Watson signing.
Yeah, that's fact.
Yeah,
that's fact for sure.
So I think it's fact, but I don't think it increases as much as people are saying it's been increasing. Like I think it's okay, but in PPR league and stuff, I don't know how valuable he is. Like I saw someone rank him outside the top 24 in PPR leagues. Someone who I respect from Football Guys. And so I think that is there.
Wait, call his name out right now.
They what?
No, I'm kidding.
Can you repeat that for me so I made sure that I
also
heard
the
that
top
correctly?
24 in PPR leagues. I do think that there are question marks about Chubb's, his value. I do think that I'm not as high on Chubb either. I do think it improves because Watson's going to be there. But I do think that it's not that he hasn't stayed healthy. I know that he's been banged up a few times. I do think they're going to bring someone in. I think that we're going to see the targets go a little bit differently. I don't think they're going to run as much. I do think that they're going to get Watson more involved. So I worry about, the volume. I think he's still going to get it. But I do think that his value goes up. So it's not a cap, but it's not as much as people want to make it out to be.
It's interesting because you picture two things that'll change, right? One thing is probably, maybe he doesn't pound the rock as much as he did the previous year. Maybe they don't depend on him to lead the Browns offense. But then you might also say, well, maybe now we won't see as many stacked boxes. I don't have those stats in front of me. Stacked boxes, or maybe there's some lanes that open up because it's a more dynamic offense. But I can see the push and pull for both of those things with Nick Chubb. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Nick Chubb's one of my favorite. Now I used to use this Mike Saber as a hater, but now I've come around because he doesn't have Baker at the helm, which is like one of my number one reasons for hating everything Cleveland. But number 10, number 7, number 10 in points per game, and now the offense goes up. Efficiency you would think would go up, right? Like you had mentioned, without again, people focusing on Baker not being able to throw it to his own team. So I love Nick Chubb right now. His value's 80.
So for me though, Chubb's a sell in Dynasty. Like I'm out. I'm always trying to get rid of my running backs before their second contract anyway. But like to me, with this value bump, if you can get somebody else, I would go after somebody else, get younger. But that's just how I roll my Dynasty leagues. That's just what I do.
I agree. He's hit 26, so he's dead to me for the most part. But I mean, if
an old man. He's an old man.
The thing is, we actually talked about this with Ben Gretsch, was that at what point do you start going against that, maybe even in startups? If everyone is letting Nick Chubb fall to the 6th and 7th round because drafting receivers is cool, when do you just take that guy for that spot? Like, he refused. He said he would never do it in his life. But, if that mentality is becoming more popular, at some point, even with his value boost, he becomes a value in and of himself in the offseason. He's going to be impossible to get in the season. So if you want to go and get him, you do it now.
Yeah. I agree to that. Next guy on the list here, we'll move on. This has been pretty. I've seen a lot of takes for this as well. Juju Smith-Schuster. I wanted him to be a Chicago Bear because we have nobody to throw the ball to outside of Darnell Mooney right now. But we decided to sign Pringle and Amon-Ra, St. Brown's older brother. That's really his younger brother in ability. So that's what we got going on in Chicago. But Juju ended up going to Kansas City. And looking at the targets in Kansas City the last 2 seasons, two guys get a lot, and the third guy usually gets a little. So 2021, Tyreek Hill, 159 targets, Kelsey, 134, the third option, 83. In 2020, Kelsey, 145, Hill, 135, the third option, 62. So a lot of people have been going back and forth. Is Juju a big fantasy asset now in Kansas City now that he's with Patrick Mahomes, or is he a guy that's going to be losing out on some value just because that third option is not utilized a lot? So factor cap, Juju is a sell in Dynasty because he is behind Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill as that third option for Mahomes. Kevin, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is cap, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm so sick of that narrative of the third guy in that offense. You know what? It has to be talented guy, and I don't think they've had the talent that you see. I mean, you'll see Pringle here a little bit up close and personal, Nick. But like to me, like Juju's talented. I know there's Juju haters out there, and I know because they get mad because they dance on TikTok and they're boomers. I still think that Juju is a talent asset. I think that he'll excel well in that offense, especially because the last time he played next to an alpha. Okay, and he was there. then he looked good with Antonio Brown there. I think that he is Antonio Brown. Excuse me. I think that he is there. If someone's telling me to sell all the time, I'm going to buy the shit out of them because I do think that there's value to be had because I do think you're going to have that. I traded for Juju. I traded Kadarius Toney and a third for Juju. I will do that all day because I am not on there. But since I don't think the value is as high as everybody thinks it is, with Mahomes in that offense, with the contracts, I think Kelsey's going to take a step back at some point. I still think that they can have 3 guys there that are relevant.
And the one comment I want to make before we go to Thomas is I do also agree that the comparison of Mecole Hardman and Byron Pringle and Demarcus Robinson is kind of an unfair one for the situation. So not going to say that won't continue, that the third option kind of gets the bottom of the barrel targets. I'm not going to say that that's not going to happen. I'm not going to say it will. I'm going to let Thomas talk in a second. But I hate the comparisons of guys that are pretty average to below average wide receivers with Juju, who you might say is not as good as people thought after that 1,400-yard season, but I'd still say on a talent perspectives, a good step ahead of all 3 of those guys. And I wouldn't, I'm going to be one of those Twitter commenters that says, and it's not remotely close, but we'll see what Thomas has to say about Juju. Is he factor cap Juju as a sell for being that third option in the offense?
That's fact. Here's why. And here's why. First off, if you're a grown adult or a grown adult male that cares that somebody TikToks, first off, you need help. Stop worrying about it. Mute TikTok, mute Juju, and you're gonna live a happier life. Second of all, in 2020, he had 128 targets. Now, I don't know how many targets you think that he's going to get in Kansas City, if it's 100, 110. But he got 97 balls for 831 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's a tight end. He's a tight end. I will care about Juju if Travis Kelce gets hurt, because then he'll get used as a tight end.
He also had Big Ben throwing him the ball.
Big Ben threw the ball like 641,322 times that year. Yeah. But he wasn't good after the catch. And outside of, again, his one blow-up season with 166 targets, he's been fine, and he's a fine asset. I think that a wide receiver like 24, wide receiver 22, maybe in points per game, if his touchdowns, really boom, if he gets past his career high 9 that he had in 2020, sure, awesome. Am I willing to bet on that? Absolutely not. Andy Reid producing a wide receiver, like a second wide receiver in his offense, is just not a thing I want to bet on. That's right, Kenny.
Kenny in the chat says he agrees. He also
Kablusic. I hope I didn't blow that, but I think that's Kablusic.
Kenny's a great guy. Kenny's a great guy from back home around the area over here. We also have a question in the chat. I just want to, on a side note, say that I love the fact, because too often I have people on the show and everybody like holds hands the whole time and agrees with each other. So I'm actually happy that we got a lot of disagreements going on for once here. And the last 2 shows I had was just me in front of the screen, and all I did was talk for an hour straight. Haven't found me the one time. So I'm just sitting back, and I love the fact that we got some disagreements going on. I love it.
It's not even so I won't even say that it's like a disagreement. I totally
for different perspectives.
Exactly. Philosophical differences. He's only 25. Now he runs and moves like he's 45, but he's a 25-year-old wide receiver who's getting a bump at quarterback, obviously. It just his targets he'll have to be super efficient for him to be as relevant, and that's why I'm out.
But I think he can be. Right? So for me, sure. I think he can be efficient. I think we could see the numbers go up. And Hill being there, I do think that when you're looking at Hill, I know that he's gonna get the targets that we like to see. But Hill, he has those boom and bust games. I think maybe Juju could be that guy for Mahomes too, that outlier guy that we're gonna see maybe some targets go in that 8-9 target range. And I think that it could be. And I don't believe in the running situation at all. Like CH is trash. We all know that. Yeah, so I do think there's a value there.
He's poo-poo. One thing I'll say, I think the best thing for Juju is going to a division or a conference, whatever, that will play the cover 2 shell the whole time, because that's what he's being brought in for, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think a couple of 10 reception games, I think, is in his future. That's just not someone I want to play weekly. That's all. That's just,
good best ball players, right? Like that. But
I like him better in best ball.
Yeah. That's the go-to line lately for guys that we're not sure about. You just say, you know what? He's probably a really good best ball player. The gray area is in the chat. Has a quick question. We'll answer this here quick. 14-team dynasty, 1 quarterback, 10 offense, 11 IDP. It's a big kids league right here. Owner before me traded away literally all 2022 and 2023 1 through 7 round picks. So for a league like this, when you have both sides of the ball, that's why you have so many rounds. Dalvin Cook, Evans, Cooper are my only immediate trade pieces. He goes on to say, should I blow it up? Should I look for 2023 first rounders? I'm going to say this is tough because I feel like some of these guys right here, if you wait a year to trade them, they're going to have a big value change, right? Dalvin Cook, maybe Mike Evans, Cooper. But if it's a 14-team league, I don't know what the defense looks like. Maybe this is a contending team this year. Maybe you just kind of roll with it and go with it. What do you guys think? You guys can jump in and have, whatever order you want to go in right now. I'm kind of push and pull because if his defense is really good in this league and he's got these 3 pieces, Dalvin Cook, Evans. He said he had Aaron Rodgers as well. And Cooper, could he just go for it this year and then go from there afterwards? I don't know.
So for the most part, Gray, you lost me at defense and IDP, but I'll say this. Those players that you listed, like Dalvin, Cooper, Evans, are already on my sell table. So I would be selling, right? So I again, they hit that age point, right, where I don't want them on my dynasty rosters and their productivity. The only reason you like Evans is a sell right now because Brady came back. If Brady was gone, you're not going to be able to sell him. So get rid of him while it's possible. 100%. Get everything that you can. If you're in this for the long haul, you get rid of them all and start the build because it sounds like other people have already got a jump on you.
Kevin, what's your thoughts? And here's the added piece. If I trade away the 3 pieces for picks, I have no team really, and I got to wait till 2024 LMAO, which means laughing my ass off. So
man, we're really hitting all the good teen words today. LMAO, fat cap. We're
crushing a couple of bad words because I labeled this podcast explicit, so I just have to roll with my brand.
So yeah, no, I think I'm on the same mindset as Thomas. I would just say like Evans for me. I just wrote it on Football Guys like I think 2 days ago. I said, hey, this is the time to get rid of Evans because of the Brady bump. And I do think there is that. I do think though that you can rebuild through not just picks. I think that's one mistake dynasty managers make. They try to rebuild through picks, which are just they're crapshoots anyway. 50-60% hit rates, or probably lower than that in terms of the top 10 guys. So I would definitely you can rebuild through younger pieces. Look for advantages of where you can get guys. Think of Elijah Moore, that's Nick's guy. Think of some guys that maybe you can go grab that maybe I even like Ayuk. I know that some people don't, but I do think he's cheaper. Then you can kind of add seconds. So one of the things I like to do is trade pieces like Evans for some guy that I think can finish in that wide receiver 2 range. And I just grab like a 2023 second, which is pretty valuable right now based on what's coming out. And I just kind of do it that way too. Like there's other ways you can trade guys instead of just picks. I think there's a good way to rebuild that way.
Or you just use the timing strategy. Get a bunch of picks right now and then wait until the day of your rookie draft and say, this one's on the block, best offer. And if you do some in-person rookie drafts, sometimes you get stupid returns for picks because everybody's drinking beers, hyped up to draft the rookies, and then they overpay for the 112 or the 203 or something like that. Next question here for the Factor Cap. So looking at the mighty Detroit Lions, we got DJ Chark is now on the team. Amon-Ra St. Brown had that killer end of the season there. So here's a couple quick tidbits. DJ Chark, his best season, 2019, 14 games. He was the wide receiver 16 overall. He averaged 15.6. He had 7 games above that average, 3 games above 100 receiving yards, and 2 of them being for 146 and 164. So we've seen a lot of good games out of him. He had 2 games with 2 touchdowns as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, as we know from this past season, weeks 13 through 18, 6 straight weeks of 10-plus targets, and he only had 10 targets one time during that stretch. So he was getting heavily targeted. His yardage was good. He had 6 touchdowns across those 6 weeks for fantasy without just reading out all the decimal points. Very, very good for fantasy. So looking at both of them coexisting, we have TJ Hawkinson, who this season averaged 7.3 targets per game, 5th amongst tight end. We had DeAndre Swift, who averaged 6 targets per game, which was tied for first amongst running backs. They both missed some time. So fact or cap, so I can breathe. DJ Chark and Amon-Ra St. Brown will limit each other's upside and only be flex plays for your fantasy lineups moving forward. Is that fact or cap? We'll go Kevin. I forgot the order.
No, I mean, I'll just say cap. I'm going to say fact, but I'm going to just say they're going to be limited until Jared Goff's not their quarterback. I don't necessarily think. I know. Goff guy over here, Nick. Yeah, but if Malik gets drafted there, though, which I think is a possibility, then we could be looking at a top 5 offense in the NFL. I really do think that. With Swift, Hawkinson, these guys there, and then you're looking at upside there. But I don't think of them anything as more than flex plays right now. If they're not flex plays, then you did a terrible job of drafting and having a team. Like I don't think you guys can plug those guys in.
In that world, it would be a scary offense. But Ryan Poles, the GM for the Bears, the new guy, said that we were going to take the North and never give it back. So I don't know if that's how possible that is. But Thomas, same question. DJ Chark and Amon-Ra St. Brown will limit each other's upsides and only be flex plays moving forward.
I'm going to say that's a cap, and I'm also going to remind you that the Starks said that they were going to reclaim the North, and they gave it up like 4 times. So
he didn't watch that stuff, I don't think.
I would just chill on that. No, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is the type of receiver you want when Jared Goff is your quarterback. I think DJ Chark made a horrific decision picking his teams. He got the money, and I like that for him, but he's really just like a fancy Reynolds anyway. So I don't particularly care about Chark affecting it. I care more like Hawkinson coming back and hurting Amon-Ra. But I mean, if you're playing in a league that has, start 3 receivers, start 3 flexes, or 2 flexes, 3 receivers, whatever, then I'm more than fine plugging Amon-Ra in every week until he shows me he can't do it. And at the end of the year, he showed that he could do it, and I haven't seen it yet. So no, I don't think Chark's the one. If they draft a receiver at 30, they have 33
32,
or whatever,
32 and 34.
Yeah, if they draft a receiver there, I'm gonna be worried.
Yeah.
Like if Pickens comes to town, I'm like, all right, yay, I want him gone. But until then, Mummy's alive there can slide onto my rosters anytime he wants.
The disrespect to my boy Chark that you just said he's Josh Reynolds.
He's fancy. He's fancy.
That
Josh
is hurtful.
Reynolds.
Yeah,
but I mean, come on, with Goff, come on.
No, I get it. Goff's right.
He did say in an interview though, this was in Detroit. They asked, what do you bring to Detroit? And he said something along the lines of, I got the best drip. So I don't know if that factors into anything for your guys' analysis, but he said he's got the best drip.
His song is Baby Shark. Stop it.
Yeah.
Your drip is a kid's song.
Hey,
Stop it.
I got mine on too right now. He was wearing his chain. I got mine on. So I'm trying to live that life.
Yeah.
But
do they play Baby Shark when you walk into a room or like catch a pass?
Well, I have like a
No?
little human running around my house, so there's that sort of stuff playing all the time. So I can't tell if it's like my music or her music. But
for
it's
the small human, not for when you walk into the gym. They don't play Baby Shark. They're like, Nick is here, Baby Shark. No, it's not. That's his drip. That's what he's known for.
There we go.
Relax.
All right. Let's get into one more question because we're getting close to an hour mark, and I don't want to keep you guys too long. And then I'm going to do a speed round for any of the remaining questions. So this one's interesting here. So the Commanders, Mckissick, he was set to go to Buffalo. He said, nah, I'm just kidding. And he was coming back to the Commanders. We thought he was leaving. He's coming back. So looking at J.D. Mckissick, a lot of people feel that he limits Antonio Gibson's upside because Antonio Gibson was a pass catcher in college, and this guy is a pass catcher in the NFL, Mckissick. So McKissick, 43 receptions in 11 games in 2021. Gibson, 42 receptions in 16 games in 2021. 80 receptions for McKissick in 16 games for 2020. 36 in 14 games for Gibson in 2020. So obviously there's a separation in the receiving. We've seen ups and downs for Gibson throughout his 2-year career so far. But they both are going to coexist again. And I kind of get it because, not to get in a rant here, but I feel like McKissick knew his role with the Commanders, and he felt coming back maybe made more sense. But that's beyond that. So here's the question here. Fact or cap, you should not be comfortable with Antonio Gibson as your fantasy team's RB1 because McKissick is back? Thomas, we'll go to you for this.
I'm gonna agree that you shouldn't be comfortable. I'm gonna disagree. It's because McKissick is back. You shouldn't have been comfortable with him as your running back 1 to begin with.
Interesting. Does something stand out outside of McKissick for you that's the that comes out so openly there?
I am terrified by running backs who come out and are super hyper efficient for touchdowns to have their sustained value. That terrifies me as my as my number 1, especially at his price, right? Like he was a Twitter darling, super athletic, big size speed. He was a receiver that converted to running back. Awesome. Love it. His hype, too high, too fast. Then he scored a bunch of touchdowns, and he's a running back, so they're all injury prone. But he's limited in his role. His quarterback didn't get much better. They are losing offensive linemen. I'm just not comfortable with him as my 1, period. Not just because of McKissick.
All right, Kevin, same question. You should not be comfortable with Antonio Gibson as your RB1 for your fantasy team because McKissick is back.
Yeah, my answer is going to be kind of the same with that in terms of McKissick. That's cap. I'm not worried about McKissick, but I will say too, like my biggest problem with Antonio Gibson as a running back 1 is Carson Wentz. I know that Taylor is different than Antonio Gibson in terms of everything. That offensive line is different. A lot of stuff's going on there. I do think Gibson will struggle this year, and he's got to stay healthy. And there's a real thing: can he handle the volume? I think that's a real issue, especially what we saw from him in college. There was no volume there. So can he do that? And I think at this point, he's got to have a good year this year. And I don't think it's going to be a running back 1 type season as much as people wanted to believe it. Remember, people were telling you, there was analysts out there telling you to draft Gibson over Joe Mixon last year. And that did not work out for you.
Lots.
Yeah. All right. Speed round, and then we're going to close the show. Just give me a fact or cap, and if you want to tweet your reason why or something, it just won't be on this show because we're getting too long into it. But I got a couple more that were on the prepared show sheet for today. Interesting questions due to free agency and what's happened the last couple weeks. But we'll go in any order. You guys can spit it out. We don't have to set the order here. So Baker Mayfield would hurt the wide receiver 1 on whatever team he lands on. Fact or cap?
Fact. He's terrible. He's awful.
Yeah,
Bye.
I agree. I've been a anti-Baker guy myself. Next one, Deonta Foreman will create a running back by committee for CMC in Carolina.
Cap.
Cap, but Chuba Hubbard definitely sucks.
I think that just kind of said that with them getting him, with McCaffrey still being there. Next one here. The Raheem Mostert signing makes Chase Edmonds a sell in Dynasty.
I'm going to say cap because Mostert needs to stay healthy before anybody is a sell in Dynasty.
I'm going to say cap, but Edmonds should have been sold when his value went up because he changed his visor.
No, that has an impact in itself. And the last one on the show sheet here, the Jaguars additions this offseason are enough for Trevor Lawrence to take a huge year 2 jump.
Fact-ish because Urban Meyer's not there. Not about the assets.
Cap because Christian Kirk is just baby Kenny Golladay with that contract. Fake alpha. No thanks.
Very interesting stuff.
Trevor Lawrence was horrific. That's one of the worst. The only thing Trevor Lawrence liked doing more than throwing into triple coverage downfield last year was just hyper targeting his slot. And if that's what all you can do, no thanks. Bye-bye.
My on a quick side note, the fantasy points extra point show that I was on every Sunday, we did player prop bets for fantasy points. My biggest player prop bet that I kept betting on every week was Trevor Lawrence under 1 passing touchdown, and it kept hitting over and over and over again. I mean, he had a handful. But
can I just say, Kenny got this right. Jump from last year's stats, yes, but giant leap, not a chance.
There we go.
I just wanted to shout out. I saw that at the bottom. Kenny got it right.
There we go. Excellent. All right, good show, guys. Again, we probably could have went another 20, 30, 40 minutes. I don't want anybody to get in trouble because I know I will myself, but I want to remind the people where they can find you guys on social media, and then anything you want to plug coming up for you that people should look forward to. And we'll start with Thomas again, then we'll go to Kevin.
Well, you can find me at Thomas Tipple FF over at the Bird app. You can find me also running the @Dynasty Tilt Twitter account over there. You can catch me tomorrow night with Josh Larkey, Jacob Sanderson, FF_RTB, Big Billy FF, as we run the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. Catch me Saturday at the Fantasy Walkabout. And remember that your best days, well, they're always spent tilting.
All right. Kevin.
I can't follow that, but you can follow me on Twitter at @theboys_22. And then you can also, in the next week, I'll be having another article out for football guys. I'm going to be looking at a super flex mock, but I'm also going to be putting a value in there. So a little bit of a kind of a different type of mock. And then also, the Debbie Royale Patreon. Check it out. We'd appreciate you guys. It's only $3 a month, and you get a manifest that's over 150 pages of content plus rookie content. So appreciate you guys there.
Great stuff for myself. I have a collaboration article coming out this week with a bunch of other content creators. And then I'll probably be by myself again Wednesday, just talking to the screen, trying to mix up being a host and hearing some other perspectives, and then me just rambling for like 30 minutes or something like that. So you can look forward to that live here where you saw this show. But thank you guys for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of the week in this NFL offseason.